Hello and welcome everybody once again to the Ivy League, a Cubs podcast. I am 1/3 of your host, Marco Santana, and Rob. I'm getting it right this time, Rob Osterman, because we now know each other now, right? And Ethan Davis. How are you guys doing, man? How are you guys doing? Welcome back. It's really cool. We have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, been a fun week, busy week for the Cubs. That's for
been
sure.
A busy week, that's for sure.
I'll tell you, there are more days this week, or the last 2 weeks, I should say, than usual, where I saw like an MLB transaction. I'm like, holy shit, it's the Cubs. You know what I mean? So they had a couple of dishes. We were a little slow there to get around, but now we're kind of cruising. We are looking at, what is it? By the time this is up, will be the last day of January. Welcome to February, boys.
Pitchers and catchers report very soon. It's almost that time.
Before you know it, we'll be talking about an actual game day preview. But today we have some really, really interesting things to go over because, as I said, it's been 2 weeks. The last time we were together, it was the night before the Cubs convention. So a lot of stuff happened there that we're kind of going to be covering, talking a little bit about. Sammy Sosa is back in the mix, and now we can talk a little more about Hall of Famers. MLB has its Hall of Fame class now kind of out there. And couple exhibitions, right? Talk about those, Ethan. John and Ryan, welcome to the club, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I think John's gonna be a good little addition to the bench, and Ryan. I mean, it's one of those things where you just don't know with some bullpenners, right? You look at his stats, but like he has it in him to be the lead guy back there. We're not gonna jump in that too soon, but real quick, I think he does have it in him.
I agree.
Yeah. He's got playoff and World Series pedigree.
Yeah.
He spent, 5 or 6 seasons with the Astros and was fairly dominant that whole time. He is an aging arm, and I can understand some people's hesitation with the aging arm.
Right. Yeah, but I think the big thing is the bigger is we needed a new bullpen after what happened last year early on.
Well, realistically, past 2 seasons, and Kirby Yates just finalized his deal with the Dodgers for $13 million after one bounce back year after he was showing signs of aging and regression, and we got Presley for $8 million. And to me, I think we paid $9.5 million for Hector Neris. He's going to be better than Hector Neris. Yeah. So the way I look at it, monetary wise.
It's hard not to be.
And you can't really place a value on what he's going to do to teach those young guys in the bullpen. He's already said in his initial interview with Marquee that he's happy to teach Porter Hodge. He's excited for the 1-2 combo they're going to be. So how can you not be excited about Ryan Presley?
He said he was excited about the competition for the closer's role, right?
That's the type of attitude you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't want your closer. You don't want your closer to be like, "Oh yeah, I got out of another jam," and then the next day, "Well, I just didn't have it tonight." You don't want that attitude. You want somebody that wants to win.
And we talked a little bit about Porter last time. And I'm still a big fan of his, but if he gets a year under pressure, that might be even better for him long term. We're doing something new this week. We're kind of breaking our podcast down in like little bite-sized section, I guess you can call them. You'll notice on the bottom right, we do have the first inning, second inning, and things like that. So it's just basically for us to keep us organized because, learning on the fly, right? And then let's see what we can do here. So we want to talk about the convention, though. Let's talk about that. Now, there was my favorite part of the convention is always the fan questions because basically, in my mind, it takes some bravery, some balls to go up there and say, come on up here and talk to us, whatever you want, right? Not to let them off the hook, but you know what? They stood in there. They asked the question. What do you guys think about the questions that were asked? I mean, a lot of it was scouting and things like that, but got to give some props, right? At least for going out there.
Yeah, and I think Crawley's question was really good. I saw that, and I think Jed Hoyer's response was perfect. The baseball is changing and is not. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Trouble with the Curb, but when the scouts are traveling across the country, going to all these high school games, I just don't think that's the way baseball is going to be anymore. I mean, nowadays you can just go online, see all these videos and statistics from a high school player, and know everything about them. I mean, they have apps. I know I coach Little League, and we have an app on our phone where you could track the stats, and this is U13. Right. So you know what so it's just different. So I think that was a good answer.
Where you can upload highlights and stuff too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not super thrilled as someone who's maybe a little more traditional. That
just say old, Rob. Just say old.
Yeah. A little more traditional in the approach, that I would like to see them continue to scout players in person because we talked about it last week a little bit. The eye test sometimes is the make or break, but at the same time, embrace the technology and as long as they're still picking up good players.
It's got to be a mix, right? Because, like I said, they still have some scouts in person in some of the Latin American countries because that's where your potential 16, 17-year-old, where you can sign them that young or out there to get them in early. So I like the mix. I like the fact that there is this whole move toward technology, right? And the whole, but that's also like a self-reporting thing, right? Where you're going to send them all your greatest highlights, of course. So it's like, how do you get the nuances? Like, what are they like when they're in a slump? What are they like when they're when they're on a roll? I think those kind of things you kind of still need the scouts for, at least for now. Ethan, what did you take away from the convention besides the Q&A?
I thought Sammy Sosa coming out there with the American flag. As everybody else, you got flashbacks to post 9/11. Him doing that at Wrigley. It was definitely, he played into the hearts of Cubs fans with nostalgia. That was a very smart move. And I think it was great that the Cubs finally buried the hatchet. It's been a long time, been too long. And the Cubs weren't the Cubs without Sammy Sosa. I think he's top 10 most influential players in Cubs history. And we haven't had a 40 home run guy since him. It was time for him to come back. And Derrek Lee, very underrated player. Everybody forgets about 2005, but he well-deserved. Great defensive first baseman too, and he's such a good guy. So I was happy to see him get in the Hall.
He was really long. He just had like the long appendages, and like back when that was like the prototype first base. He was great I think for the Cubs. That was one of the times when they getting him was like a sign that again. You get a decent free agent, you figure out, okay, the Cubs are trying to do something, right? And that was always hard to find from a certain, again, like I said last week or last time on the show, in the 90s, you never found that. You rarely found that. You found one and dones. But it seemed like when they got Derrek Lee, right when Aramis Ramirez, they also went out and got, like they were trying to make a team. So definitely well deserved. And I really love that about the convention, right? The convention is like, they are smart to make it keep it where it's supposed to be, which is basically just a pep rally for the fans to come in and say, we love you guys. And I love the reception of Sammy. Again, a little older school thinking, and I remember being right in the middle of all that stuff. But I'm very glad. I'm actually glad though that he's back in the mix. But Rob, what do you think about just how we're doing this season? The convention though, it's like this pep rally that everyone just kind of loves going to these things. What do you kind of take out of every year? To me, it's like, oh shit, baseball's back. We're almost back. It's like almost like a signal that we're coming back.
Yeah, I mean it's the ringing of the bell. It's the time where Cubs fans get ready for the season, and I think it's probably the first. I think it's probably the first real benchmark in the season. We get past that time, and a lot of teams,
especially for fans,
pep rallies, so to speak, as you said, call them.
Right.
A lot of teams do their pep rallies in that January time frame.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited.
Pitchers and catchers, because you want to get, all those questions knocked out.
Right.
And from what I did watch of it, I'm excited to see the team we're going to be fielding, and Jed is on the hot seat, and he needs to make something happen this year.
Jed is Jed, man.
Sounds like he wants to make it happen, but
I agree.
You know, the breaking even comments, I understand why some fans are pretty upset about those comments.
Yeah.
But that's Ricketts, not Hoyer. I think Hoyer takes a little bit more of the slack when maybe it should be going towards the Ricketts, because you're talking about breaking even, and then now you're putting $700 seats at center field. So which is it? Are you broke or are you not?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, for sure, absolutely. So we're talking a little bit about Derrek Lee and Sammy. They were entering the Cubs Hall of Fame, but throughout baseball, though, they've been celebrating this other class of the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. 3 guys that deserving, absolutely deserving. I mean, Billy Wagner we'll talk about, of course, and CC Sabathia. He was the postseason. He was just a machine. But Ichiro, man, Ichiro's got me. He's got my heart forever. When he was playing, I played in like the only really good fantasy baseball league I ever played in, and I just had Ichiro, and you got extra points for triples. So every year I would have Ichiro, and every year it would be like every time he hit a triple, it'd be like he hit a home run. It was because you get extra points for triple RBI run, right? But anyway, so like I watched him his whole career. I wrote down some numbers, and he had 509 stolen bases. He is one of just 5 with 3,000 hits and 500 stolen bases, and that's insane to me. And remember, he didn't start here until he was 27. He was already like on his way to being a legend in the Japanese baseball league.
Yeah, he played till he was what, 44, 45?
45. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I was surprised that he wasn't already in it. Like it's only been 5 years since he retired, apparently. So because that's the rule, right?
I saw a stat. You mentioned triples. I remember he had just shy of 100 triples.
Yeah, 96 triples. Yeah,
96. Okay.
Yeah, and it was just almost like clockwork. At least once a week, you'd see him with the triple, and the trip. But I remember he went from 0 to 60 in like 0 seconds. Right, his acceleration was just so amazing, and that's why the stolen bases. He was stealing bases when they didn't cheapen it by making the bags bigger and like that. Ethan, what's your big kind of with the Hall of Fame with Ichiro and CC?
The fact that Ichiro was not unanimous, I think it's ridiculous.
God,
I think that baseball writers should have their credentials taken away for voting for the Hall of Fame. Ichiro changed baseball, and he really was the player that brought Japanese culture into American baseball. And the contributions go beyond just the field with Ichiro, and he was such a phenomenal hitter, pure hitter. And I love Billy Wagner. He had this swagger about him, and when he was going in to close a game, you knew there was no point. I think,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I do think CC Sabathia strictly got in for his playoff performances, which I am not taking away from that. But regular season, his splits are a great, just average great pitcher, like not Hall of Fame worthy. But
I mean,
it's hard to say no.
He had a 3,000
Ks.
Yeah,
but it's hard to say no 3,000 Ks though. I mean, 3,000 Ks is 3,000 Ks.
Yeah, but first ballot, I don't know. But the other thing is,
first ballot, but yeah,
I'm not saying it doesn't deserve to be. I don't know if now was the time. But then I look at the class of next year. I don't know if you guys saw the Jeff Smargilla is for next year, dude, and it's like what? Yeah, he's yes. But he's not going to get any votes. But the fact that he's even it's just weird. I think the standards for the Hall of Fame have gone down so dramatically, and I think it highlights further the need that we need to forgive steroid era players for doing what everybody was doing, what wasn't even technically illegal, and the standards for the Hall of Fame have got to go up, or it's just the Hall of very good.
But I would say the point though that Samardzija is in there because he retired 5 years ago. Like that's that's when they throw him up there. Now the fact that he's on a top 5 list that kind of shows it more. But everybody who retired 5 years, I think Ben Zobrist on.
Samardzija was good, but was he that?
No.
He has a negative career win loss, so I know he's.
Hold on. To me, Cole Hamels and Ryan Braun are the only two who will approach 60% and much less 75% you need to get in the play.
Okay, but here's my thing. Really, out of all the steroid players, Ryan Braun is the most deserving? Come on. He's not the most deserving of all the steroid users. I mean, Barry Bonds literally...
No, but the thing is, like, that's not a finalist list.
Okay, that's
right?
true. You did bring up a good point with that. But.
Yeah, they don't come into the finalists until like later in the year. But that's a list of who's eligible because all those people retired 5 years ago. I think it was 5 years.
Right. It's so they retire. It's 5 years from retirement, and then they have 10 years of eligible voting, right?
Right.
Okay. So. Okay. Gotcha.
So Samardzija. Samardzija has a career 4.15 ERA.
Yeah.
With an 80 and 106 record. All right.
Yeah, we saw most of those losses.
Debate the WAR stat all you want, but he's only got 15 career wins.
Well, remember though, he's not a finalist, right? He's just eligible. So it's not.
I understand.
Because there's no way
that somebody that is even eligible. Like
that's what I'm getting. Thank you, Rob. That's what I'm getting at. Is the fact that he's even.
He's gotta have some sort of gate.
But that's the thing. They don't. That's the thing. They don't. Anybody who I actually looked it up on the records, the thing you're talking about, and they have a list of like who's eligible, and it goes down to Ben Zobrist, who had the postseason experience. He's above Samardzija, but like I said, all that group retired 5 years ago, and so I don't think anybody is arguing or will argue that Samardzija belongs in the Hall of Fame. And if so, that's Ethan who you got to get rid of the credentials. But but I think the only ones who will even sniff 50% is Braun or Cole Hamels. And that's that to me is also stretching it. Again, you need 75 to get in. So I think we're going to have a really it's going to be an old school people next year too. So yeah, I'm with you guys though. I mean, those guys are like, you look at the names and it's like, I was reading the names, I couldn't stop laughing because every single one, I'm like, wait, no. But yeah, they just became eligible. If they're not like on any sort of finalist list or anything like that. So, yeah.
Well, and just because you brought up Ryan Braun and just because he's a steroid user, I wanted to quickly just talk about Sammy Sosa's 2001 season because if Ryan Braun is going to get votes and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and all of them are just barred from even being involved in the discussion. Yeah. Sammy Sosa in 2001 had 189 hits, 64 home runs, 160 RBIs. He had a 328 batting average, a 4.37 OBP, and he only hit into 6 double plays. I mean, when was the last time?
6 double plays all year?
That's it. That is next level ridiculous stats. To bring me to the further point of...
What year was that?
That was 2001, the year I was born, but we don't need to discuss how young I am. But
no, I remember that year. That was
so do I.
A good year.
The point I'm trying to make here is that it's just the Hall of Fame acts all high and mighty about steroid users, but they pick and choose. Poppy's in the Hall of Fame. You telling me he never juiced? I mean, it's just I don't know. The fact that Ryan Braun's even allowed to get votes when Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and Barry Bonds are the villains, it's just it's ridiculous to me. But
okay,
yeah, no, I think I like it, but I think. Again, he's on the list. I think he should be in? No, absolutely not. Ryan Braun, just for his numbers, not because of the roids, but just for his numbers. Right?
Now, if it was his number against the Cubs, he would definitely be a Hall of Fame player because he always seemed to 400 batting average, 100 home runs.
every team had one of those. Every team had one of those. Man.
The one that I wanted to bring up, Andrew Jones. And obviously. Totally not Cubs related, but Andrew Jones, how does he not get in?
How does CC Sabathia get in over Andrew Jones? Again, not hating on CC Sabathia getting in, but first ballot, really?
I think Sabathia deserves it a couple years down the line.
Right.
Well, I think that's also part of what the ballot looked like this year. Right.
I mean, Andrew Jones was what center field was. Right.
Yeah, Andrew Jones, he did. He was he tracked him down over there, man. He was amazing. He was really great. and he was on part of some very good Braves teams too. So that's not a negative either.
Yeah.
So I think personally for me, Andrew Jones Hall is very good. I mean, we can just debate that forever. That's because I do think Sabathia's 3,000 Ks are important. But let's just do one episode on Hall of Fame like on that week.
We should. That should be another off-season episode to do.
Next off season we can debate Hall of Famers.
Well, there you go. But there was also the Cubs Hall of Fame, right? And let's go back to Sammy. We're talking. He had that mea culpa, right? He had that I'm sorry. He had the. It's almost like they said, "Hey, you apologize, we'll put you in the Hall of Fame." And he said, "I'm sorry." Next thing you know, the press release comes out, right? So we have Derrek Lee, Sammy Sosa. What do you guys remember about those two guys? We've covered a little bit, but what do you guys recall about just those two guys they're a big part of Chicago Cubs history, frankly.
Yeah, I'll let you go first, Rob, because you were alive for both of them. To be honest with you, I really only remember watching Derrek Lee play. I have faint memories of Sammy Sosa, so Rob, you take it away.
I mean, Sammy was who I grew up. You gave the stat line from the 2001 season. I don't remember where that was in his Cubs tenure, but that was. I was 9, 10, 2001. I guess I would have been about a 13-year-old kid watching that season. When was the home run race?
98.
98.
Yeah. So I've got maybe half a dozen of the. What did Sosa have? 66. I have
yes, 68 maybe, and
66 or 68. I've got about a dozen of the cards from that year from the Topps home run chase.
Right.
And I've got a couple of the McGuire ones too, but that was Sosa was the reason to watch baseball. Sosa and McGuire's home run race was the reason to watch baseball growing up, regardless of who you were a fan of. So it's one of those things. Everybody in the league, everybody in the country who followed baseball knew Sosa, and
even those who weren't following baseball,
yeah. It was just a pleasure watching growing up, and it shaped a lot of my opinions about baseball too. That time frame, at least. D. Lee, I enjoyed watching him. He was great, but the Cubs were so bad.
I was about to say him
overall.
Him and Ramirez. I think him and Ramirez were two bright spots in a very, very dark lineup. You know what I mean? Like that lineup was not that good, but Derrek Lee and Ramirez were the ones that kind of gave it. And Kerry Wood. Well, Kerry Wood is like earlier than that though, because D. Lee was around 2005 or something like that.
That was about the time that Kerry Wood transitioned into the bullpen, wasn't it?
Yeah. But going back to Sammy, like in '98, like I remember because. We talked about his last show, but he and McGuire basically saved baseball because they had just come off a couple of years of really terrible returns because of the strike in the mid '90s, and then that was when contracts were starting to kind of get up to these ridiculous numbers that aren't anything anymore. But at that time, they started going to these numbers that just were the first time that we started seeing the salary escalation. And I think a lot of fans were put off by that.
A contract look like
and that's crazy. That's insane. But yeah, I mean, Sammy was Sammy, man, and Sammy. I think I'm glad he's back within the fold of the organization. I think
agreed.
I think he truly, even in the interviews this year, he seemed very contrite and apologetic, even without admitting anything. Right, he was still there saying that he just wanted to be back into the fold because he knows that Cubs fans loved him and he loved the Cubs fans. So it's been interesting to see that. It was great to see that whole when he came out with the American flag. The reason that resonated is because he did that first game back after 9/11, and he was one of the. And it wasn't like everybody in the league was doing that. He was one of the few who did that because that was just something he wanted to do. And so I think that was a very iconic moment later in his career, a few years removed from the race, I should say. And I think that's kind of why, that was a great move by him to do that, because it did kind of bring up the positive memories instead of, the bat shattering in the infield and running over there grabbing it so no one else would grab it. That was the one thing where I remember when I was a kid. I was in my mid-20s. I remember watching that and thinking like, oh, that's suspicious.
You were a kid then.
Right. So, but yeah. So anyway, that's my thought.
Well, the corked bat was definitely something he should have apologized for. But you brought up an excellent point. That 98 home run race between two steroid users saved baseball, brought people back to baseball. So Sammy and McGwire are apologizing to their organizations, and for what? Because they didn't have any problem making millions and millions and millions of dollars off their success. If anything, the Cardinals and the Cubs need to apologize to Sosa and McGwire somewhere down the line too. But that's never going to happen. I know it's wishful thinking. I'm just saying it's this hypocritical mindset that just kind of, I keep talking about it, but it really bothers me towards steroid users when they've done so much for that game. They really have.
And I'll provide something my father would agree with me on. I know betting on your own sport is bad, but Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the hit king.
For me.
I agree, 100%.
I don't know about you guys, but
I agree.
Well, that's 30 years. That's like 40 years removed now, right?
I
think, right?
Yeah,
so
we've moved past this.
I think that's the whole. If I were on a committee, that's something I would revisit every year. After some amount of time, you got to revisit every year. I'm not saying I'm one guy who would push it through. I'm not saying I'm one guy who would block it. I'm one guy who would say, okay, let's all talk about this, right? Because Bart Giamatti, back in the day, he gave him this lifetime ban.
That's a name.
And that's insane to me that has stuck, right? Lifetime ban is lifetime ban. I get it. But you would think that the commissioners after would be like, can we really stick with this? But,
it happened with Shoeless Joe.
Yeah, for sure. And I think to me, but again, that's 100 years ago, right? Maybe in 2085, and Doug Pete Rose and all that.
Well, the other thing too with Pete Rose, his stats are hands down. He's the hit king. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, stats alone. But he lied about it. I can't remember the name, but the commissioner, early 2000s, I want to say, was willing to. I think it was Bud that said, "Hey, if you just admit it and you apologize now, I'll reinstate you." And he didn't do it. I watched a lot of documentaries on Pete Rose, and for a while there, I did feel bad for him. But he did it to himself. I mean, if he owned up to it right away and admitted, hey, I wasn't betting against my team. I was just betting on them to win. I shouldn't have done it. I have a gambling problem, whatever. It would have been totally different. He'd be a Hall of Famer. He would have gotten to see that before he died. But he wanted to lie about it for 2 decades, so I don't really feel bad.
No, I don't feel bad for the choices he made following the lifetime ban.
Yeah.
I wish he would have gotten things together before.
He was a phenomenal player, and he retired in the mid '80s, so I was still young so I'm not acting like I knew him his whole career, but I remember even as a kid, and again as a kid he was in his like later days, but he and like Tony Gwynn were just amazing. Like wherever the ball was, they knew how to hit it, how to stroke, how to stroke, and how to stroke.
He had a lifetime 300 plus.
Yeah, and it's just amazing that like they were. Yeah, just too bad that whole thing marred the conversation. We should be talking right now about how great he was, not about
right.
Like that whole thing marred a great 20-year career.
And you know what I will say too about Pete Rose? Everybody talks about the Big Red Machine and his time in Cincinnati, but the Phillies were a joke of an organization for a hot minute. And when they won the World Series, I think they were going through a 60+ year championship drought. Yeah. So Pete Rose means a lot to not just people of Cincinnati, but to Philadelphia. And he did two incredible things for two storied organizations. And we're not talking about how he brought the Phillies a World Series after such a big drought, or how Cincinnati became relevant in baseball because of Pete Rose. We're talking about how much of an idiot he was.
Do you guys know the Ray Fosse incident?
Not off the top of my head, but
okay. Ray Fosse was a catcher, I think, for the Cleveland Indians, and it was an All-Star game.
He slid into him, right?
No, he barreled him
ran him over. Yeah. That's right, and he never recovered from it. Really.
Yeah. An exhibition game though, and like that guy. I mean, he just laid it all out there every time he was competing, and it was like exhibition. That was the All-Star game, right? Because that was still just an exhibition, but. That was back in the day when people gave a shit about the All-Star game. But no, he never. And honestly, that's kind of like I should think about Pete Rose more often, because that's the way I want to go. I want to hustle every time, every day, even if it's like an exhibition, whatever. But yeah, so I mean, I do, bringing it back to kind of Sammy and Derrek Lee. I mean, those are two kind of really good names in those eras, and D. Lee, man, I think. He was one of the people, like, whenever you had a rally, you looked at the lineup and looked at, like, oh, God, hopefully Derrek Lee's in there or Ramirez is coming up soon, because otherwise you were pretty much going through a black hole. Like,
yeah, I hate to say it, but, like, searching my memory bank, I remember Aramis way more than I remember Lee. And that's not to take anything away from Lee, because I've seen the stats and I remember seeing him and I remember admiring him.
Didn't Aramis go?
Aramis was the
last year
base kind of,
Right. Hey, speaking of Cubs World Series, no, I'm just kidding. John Birdie, man, he's coming. He's we had a nice little chat early in the show about this, but Ethan, again, good riddance, Miles, but John,
Masterbone.
He's a man with a home on the bench, right?
Yeah, and we don't know how Shaw is going to come up and play right away. And Jed Hoyer said it a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to quote him here because I agree with it 100%. He said Addison Russell and Chris Bryant spoiled Cubs fans' views of prospects because they came up, lit it up right away. That is not the case for most prospects. Look at PCA. I mean, solid example of how he's gotten better over time. And a little off topic, but I do think PCA will be an all-star next year, but we'll save that for another episode. But no, I think
I agree.
I think it's a great addition because he's somebody that if Matt Shaw's in a slump and you need to put him in for a few games, it's not hurting you. It's not detrimental. Right. He had 40 stolen bases just a couple years ago. He brings a lot more to the table than just solid defense at third. He can do a lot of things, and I think he's going to have a lot of value on the bench as a pinch runner too.
Pinch runner.
He brings solid defense off the bench from just about any position on the field other than catcher.
Right. And, I think Council, we're going to talk about lineups again closer to the season, but, when you think about it, Council, Birdie's going to be his little, like, wild card where he can give Dansby a day off, right? Or give someone, like, he can be the one that just, unfortunately, it was either Madrigal or Miles the last 2 years. But I think this guy's a major upgrade to both of those guys. And I think I'm excited to see how again, when you talk about people on the bench, it's a cross fingers, right? Either the fact that they don't play makes them rusty, or they're veterans like Birdie, and they take it for what it is, but they stay ready. I think he's going to be the latter rather than the former.
I agree, and you brought up Miles Mastroboni and Nick Madrigal. I have tried so hard to forget about Nick Madrigal's tenure as a Cub, honestly. But if you want to compare apples,
like that 3-month time span where he was a phenomenal third baseman and hit okay.
My problem with Madrigal, See, my problem with Madrigal wasn't on the numbers so much. It was our lineup was not good enough to have a Nick Madrigal.
I agree.
Correct.
Even if you hit 280, 270, if you have matches all over, okay, this is the little guy who like has little singles here and there and kind of makes a solo home run and a 2-run home run, right?
Right.
But we didn't have enough of those matches that like justified having someone like him everyday lineup middle infield.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And Miles Mastroboni, I have his splits from his time with the Cubs. His batting average,
Jesus,
lifetime batting average
hold on,
is .194. Okay, and John Birdie's
and that is when you rallied the last couple months.
Oh God.
Yeah, and John Birdie, career a little over 250 hitter, but in his 66 at bats last year, he had 18 hits, 1 home run, got some RBIs. I just think John Birdie adds so much diversity to your bench, and I think a lot of people, kind of looked at this signing and balked at it. No, whatever, because everybody really liked Mike Tauchman, and Mike Tauchman was a great bench guy. He had 3 walk-offs for us last year, so I get the recency bias. But let's be honest here, we don't need backup outfielders really compared to the infield, because it was like, especially last year, if it was Madrigal or Mastroboni, until Mastroboni really got his defense figured out later in the season, it was just like it was such a black hole in your lineup to have them there. And I don't think John Birdie is that. Is he an all-star signing? No, but he's definitely an improvement. He's definitely somebody that makes your team better and can do quite a bit. So
I'm just very happy and excited that when Craig Counsell needs a bat, he's going to look at the bench and Tauchman and Miles will not be there, because I don't want them to be an option for him, because they just were not. Tauchman had his moments,
right?
But the fact that we talked about him, and even some Cubs fans were like yelling for more playing time, shows how not deep we were, because he's not a starting outfielder in most other teams.
He is for the White Sox, so point proven.
Well, that's a whole other.
Right, Major League team. My bad.
Right.
The White Sox are like a professional minor league team at this point, but that's neither here nor there. I liked the Palatine Pounder when he was on, of course.
Yeah.
And when he wasn't,
it was a cute story. It was also like a cute story. Cubs fan wins the game. Right. Cubs, that's great.
I never disliked him, but it's time to move on from him, right?
He's one of the guys that has to come through. I don't care, 7 out of 10 times for me to like him, right? In like clutch situations, because maybe 4 out of 10, right? But like he had a higher bar. He had to beat for me to say attainable number. But for me to say that, he's a good part of this team, that's just what I have for him. Like Dansby Swanson, he contributes all everywhere. I think he takes too much heat, but nonetheless, he's an adult, so he can take it. But I'm saying like what he brings to the table from leadership, defense, obviously, pretty much shortstop is locked down for the next 5 years. I can withstand a little bit of a lower production than we're used to, but Tauchman needed to be on his game for me to care about him.
See, here's the thing with Dansby, and I'd have to pull it up to verify, but I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that Dansby's production with the Cubs has been in line with his career production for his entire career.
It 100% has. I can 100% tell you that you were right.
He's last year was maybe a 10-point slump, maybe 10 or 15.
Well, he just had that big year. The year before he came over, I was looking him up today, actually, out of nowhere for some reason. And the year before he came here, it hit like 277 or something like that. And and now he's in the 240s. I don't mind though. I don't mind because he does.
I think he's a career 240 hitter, isn't he?
250 hitter.
250?
Yeah.
But
that's all I want from him, though, is Gold Glove defense and get on base once a game.
Right.
That, or get a hit once a game.
And
I like the chances this year.
And if you really want to, the people that are upset about Dansby or give him so much flack, look at the other shortstops that were available that year and look at their production. It's actually less according to the fan graphs. So I just think people.
You look at the numbers, and Ethan, I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is you look at the numbers of the average hitting numbers are going down. Averages, right? I'm not just talking about batting average. I'm talking about the whole whatever 9 yards of all the right.
Yeah.
So, and these guys, some of these Cubs end the season at either average a little bit above because they're not hitting 300. Everyone's like, oh, they suck. It's like, no, this is just where the game is right now. There's a ton of, I don't know what it is. I won't try to hypothesize right now, but it's just there is the quote unquote average player does not produce the stats that he once did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just one of the big ones I've seen throughout Cubs fandom, and admittedly, the signing I, at the time, thought might be the right move was the Trey Turner signing. Because it was Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson.
Yeah, we all want Trey Turner. We all want
else? Lindor, right?
No, it was Correa.
Correa. No, Correa was available last year.
No, he was the year before. It was Correa, Bogarts.
Yeah, Correa was. Okay. You're right. Either way, the difference between Dansby and Turner is fairly negligible on offense. Turner had a better batting average, but less runs scored, less RBIs, the same amount of stolen bases, and worse defense.
Yeah, this is the hindsight 2020, right?
I'll
never say that if I go back to that time, I would never ever say Dansby over Trey. Trey was the person in that class of the shortstops. Sorry, the shortstops. And so I'll never look back and say, yeah, we got away with one. No, I wanted Trey Turner 100%. But and I still think he's still got 3 or 4 years to prove. I'm going to take it over several years. But Dansby produced where he expected to produce. Maybe not where some of the fans expected him to produce, but like you said, in line with his league or his career numbers is what he's been doing, and I think that's what we expected.
All right, I'm with Rob. 250, 15 homers, 60-plus RBI, Gold Glove defensive shortstop. Because his pop time at short is just insane. If you blink, you miss him diving to catch a ball and getting back up. It's insane.
Well, the thing about him is you'll go a month without an error, and then they'll mention on the broadcast. I'm like, holy shit, really? Because there's some, because he's just so smooth, you don't really even recognize it. Whether he makes an error or not, you just don't. It's not. I don't know how to explain it. But to me, he's a great fundamental shortstop. And
I'm looking here. Trey Turner committed 23 errors in Philadelphia in 2023 and 17 last year. Dansby has committed 16 over the course of those 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
so
again,
and I know errors isn't a definitive stat, but just an off the cuff stat, for Dansby to have less errors in 2 years than Trey has had in one in the better of his 2 years since then. I'll take it.
Well, let's go around the lineup, because I think I want to talk a little bit about free agents and who's available, and we have a really. I'm going to give. I need to give the front office. I'll give them credit to an extent right now, because everyone keeps talking deal Nico. I don't get why they're saying that. Middle infield, center field, catcher. Defensively, that's where you need to be on point, and that's where we are. right? Amaya needs to get better at the armor course, but obviously PCA is PCA. Who's out there free agent wise? Obviously Bregman's one of the big names. Do you think we'll see another move before spring training hits?
Ethan, you want to
address
this one
so
first?
I've
got some thoughts for sure. But I want to hear what you have to say about it.
So here's the thing. This offseason's already been more productive than I thought it would be. So to me, it's like if they don't do anything else, I don't really care because my expectations are already surpassed. But I'm hearing this Bregman talk. And the Twitter space is kind of been going back and forth. I've heard reports that they want I can't remember how much money Alex Bregman's offer was for, but it was a lot, and for several years. And the Astros were trying to kind of nickel and dime him, and he's getting more open to the possibility of a 2 or 3 year deal. And then some fans are saying, "Well, I don't know if we want to do that. What about Matt Shaw?" And to me, always take the proven guy, the guy who's been 4 out of 9 seasons had MVP votes, won 2 World Series. I mean, he's a ridiculous player. He would immediately add 2 or 3 wins to our season total. I would like Bregman. I'm not getting my hopes up. And I keep hearing John Morosi was talking about the Cubs trading for either Dylan Cease or Michael King from the Padres. Now, I've heard, it has not been verified, but I've seen some people tweet that the asking price for Dylan Cease is Matt Shaw, and I think if you give Matt Shaw for 1 year of Dylan Cease, you should text me your drug dealer's number because I want what you're smoking. But no,
I'll wait.
I want to, Ethan. I think those rumors. I feel like, and again, I might, kind of be, egg on my face for this, but I feel like those rumors start because the free agents. There's already talk about agents kind of picking up, starting these rumors, and the Cubs being like, we didn't even talk about them. Like that's I feel like this late in the game, I feel like that could be part of what's going on.
The only rumor I've seen confirmed, I think it was, I don't remember if it was John Morosi or John Heyman, that Owen Casey was involved in the conversation. And Owen Casey used to be a Padres prospect. So if they could do something where it's like Owen Casey and maybe a low A, no-name player for Dylan Cease, I say do it, provided you have plans in place to sign an extension. Because if we sign we trade away all these prospects for 1 year of all these guys, and then next offseason they're nickel and diming them, and we don't get any of them. That's a total waste.
That's my big thing is whether it's Michael King or which I've seen some Michael King chatter, along with the Dylan Cease chatter, and personally, I'd be okay with either one of them. Obviously, Cease is the more firecracker kind of.
Bring him back to Chicago.
But Michael King had Cy Young votes last year. Yeah, he's not bad. He's very, very good, actually.
Yeah,
I would take either one of them, and if it's Matt Shaw, I'll take that dealer's number too, Ethan. And I mean, if they want Canario, if they want Owen Casey, if they want what's his face, the second baseman, Triantos, these are guys that I could give up. There's plenty of our guys that I could understand giving up.
I think
but Shaw is not one of them.
I think the great thing that I'm seeing, again, whether it works or not, I mentioned this on the last episode. I'm probably saying this all season. Whether it works or not, Hoyer is sticking to what he wanted to do. Shaw's coming in for third. We had Candelario. Remember, he's like plugging in where he has to try to give the semblance of trying to do something, but not giving up the farm. So I do think he's trying to establish a farm system that's sustainable on top of trying to plug and play with Kyle Tucker, right? And maybe that works with the extension. So I think I'm impressed right now, and I I promise you, if we had this podcast 3 years ago, I would have said the same thing because I felt like that's what was going to happen as soon as all the guys were let go.
Yep.
Yeah. I will be honest. Compared to most people, I couldn't care less about prospects. I think the main point of prospects is to trade them for proven guys. But there's a few prospects every now and then that I'm excited about and want to hold on to. And PCA was one of those. Cade Horton's one for me, and Matt Shaw. All his coaches from Team USA all the way up through the minors have nothing but good things to say about him.
Yep.
And his only concern was defense, and he's improved that. He worked on it. And somebody that can take that criticism and be like, and to be like, you know what? I do all these things great. Maybe I'm just not the best fielder. He said, nope, I'm going to spend extra time. And the Team USA coach could not have said better things about his defensive improvement. So
and that's the thing. Year to year, I cannot wait to see PCA in spring because I freaking guarantee there's gonna be another element to his game that's just awesome. I think the offseason, man, that's what happens.
Yeah, and he got some.
They never stop working on their stuff, That's what a lot of people forget.
Yeah, and people build off success too. People forget that too. And I think PCA, if you look at his splits the first few months of the season, and his last 2 months, he was batting over 270. Right. With a few homers, a bunch of RBIs, and same with Amaya. Amaya really turned it around in the second half. So I think guys build confidence and can sustain success more once they've felt it. So, I mean...
Man, PCA hits 275. He's getting 70 stolen bases. You know what I mean? Like that's those numbers are going to go on.
Okay, so you bring up a good point. Everybody right now, we're going to come back to this podcast in a year. What's your over-under for stolen bases for PCA? I'm saying I'm going to be real ballsy. I'm going to say 40. Yeah. 45 plus is my answer. Over on 45 stolen bases.
I'm going to hold off because I think we're going to have an episode with all our predictions. However, I'm not kidding when I say 70. If that guy's not based that much, he's got the green light, and he'll do a 90% success rate.
At this time, I'll one-up you and say 50 plus.
PCA, you guys, maybe this is to my generation, but you ever seen that episode of SpongeBob where he's that fast guy superhero and he goes, I just ran past that rock. You want to see me do it again? And it just like in a blink of an eye. That is how I feel about PCA on the bases. It's like, want to see me steal second? You want to see me do it again? That's how I feel. He's really that effective.
Level, do it again. I'm gonna call one inside the park home run this year. It's gonna happen.
Oh man, I was at the bar when that game was happening. And Sox fans were cheering because how often do you see something like that? But
hey guys, let's talk about the outfield. I mean, one of the things that I think, obviously, the Kyle Tucker thing was huge, but we already have Hap. PCA's freaking beast mode, right? And like, where do you guys see this outfield? We all watched that video. It was on Facebook. We'll link it in our description of the video, but. I think quote unquote experts like our outfield how it's shaping up, and I think I agree with them.
I think we have the best outfield in baseball right now, and people can come at me in the comments all they want for that. It's the truth. Right. PCA, I think we have a potential for all three of them to win a Gold Glove. I mean, 2 out of the 3 of them won one last year. PCA gets more established. Yeah. PCA gets more established this year, plays the whole year. He's winning a Gold Glove. So,
yeah.
I think he's gonna battle for. I don't think you're off there with a potential for a triple Gold Glove.
And it's so funny because like the one guy that's out of the mix is Seiya, right? But if he embraces the DH role, and just we won't need another DH either because he hit no one. There was so much like up and down with him that you don't remember he hit 285 last year, right? Yep. And he hit 285 with 20 some odd home runs. If he's DH and he embraced it, I could see 30 home runs out of him because again, it's going to be one of those things where like, is he sad because he's not in the outfield? Is that going to affect his play? That's part of it. But I'm curious to see how that goes.
I don't think that's going to affect his at bats. If anything, it's going to make him more inclined to focus in on that more, if for no other reason than to raise his own trade value, because he wants out of the situation. As crass as that is to say, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And his agent said that Seiya has not. We have not heard Seiya say anything of that nature. And Craig Counsell said at Cubs convention that he had talked to Seiya about it. He just wants to help the team. He was okay with it. And you got to keep in mind too that whether Seiya likes it or not, his splits last year were a lot better when he was a DH. He's had injury problems, and let's be honest, he's had the yips in the outfield since that Atlanta game in 2023.
Let's not talk about that.
Oh, dude, that broke my heart.
Let's just not talk about Seiya in the outfield.
That was Billy Goat curse vibes when I saw that drop.
It's painful.
The thing is, like, I'm such a Seiya fan. I still remember people wanting to get rid of him last year. And again, this fan base, man, just jumps to, like, it's not let's sit him down and give him a couple of days off. It's like, no, get rid of him, trade him. And, like, I'm glad. Remember, they're talking about some people talking about for PCA when he was over the year before. It's like, come on, like again, I get it. We want to go 162-0, but that's never going to happen. And you look at
I'll meatball a little bit and say that I would love to see Seiya. Well, more than anything, to be clear, I'd love to see Seiya excel in the DH role, hit 35 to 40 homers, 100 RBIs, 290. I'd love it. However, if he's not happy being a DH, I'd like to see him excel at being a DH so that we can trade him for some really top tier whoever. Whatever it is at the time.
Or if we don't extend Kyle Tucker and say I had a great year as a DH, maybe that Kyle Tucker not getting the extension will sting a little less. It still is going to sting, but
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Seiya, and I think for me, we're better with him in the lineup than not. He's a good hitter. He like Absolutely. When he locked in, it was such a indicator of maturity. I don't think it was last year. Was it when they sat him down for 10 days and he came back and just raked? That was like one of those things where, like, that shows that he wasn't just taking days off and saying, "Okay, cool, I'm gonna pout over here." He was working on that shit.
He is a very emotional dude, though. Like, his game is emotional. Not saying anything derogatory about him personally, obviously.
Right.
But his game seems very emotional, and it seems very tied to how he's feeling about things. And that's my only concern with him as DH is that he's a little upset that he's not playing in the field.
Yeah, I think one thing when he sat down for that week and a half, to me, it kind of showed that he has the right mindset to be flexible. Hopefully, again, we're all going to find out at the same time coming down. So, but I'm excited though. I'm excited to see how he does. I'm excited to see how the outfield does. That's definitely a strength of ours. Another strength that we're looking at potentially is the bullpen, right? And last week I was all on board for Porter Hodge, saying screw everybody, give him the closer role, let's go. And then we got Ryan Presley, signed, and now there's this discussion about Ryan helping Porter get better, kind of feeding off each other here in spring training, which starts in a couple of weeks. Pitchers and catchers reporting. That bullpen, man, they're just adding a bunch of arms and seeing what sticks. I think, but the arms they're adding this year is a lot better than they have been in the last several years.
So Ethan, you're pretty high on Eli Morgan, right?
I think I'm more than that. I think I have a strange obsession with Eli Morgan.
But I mean, let's take Ryan Presley and Porter Hodge. Add Eli Morgan in the mix.
Luke Little.
And then who else you got? Luke Little, Ben Brown. I mean, Luke Little,
Tyson Miller.
Brown, Tyson Miller.
Yeah,
he comes
we still
in
got some holdovers, man. We still got some holdovers. I feel. I'm excited for the bullpen.
Merriweather. I mean, we've got a 7, 8, 9.
Right.
With multiple different armedness. How do you say that? Armedness.
Right. Throw over both sides. Yeah.
Multiple different sides. We've got a lefty and a righty for leverage innings. We've got a lefty and a righty for garbage innings.
Caleb Thebar. Caleb Thebar is a left-handed bullpen guy. Is a huge improvement to frickin' Drew Smiley. So people balked at that signing too, but that was an improvement there.
Smiley, man. Oof.
Yeah, I mean, you can balk at it all you want, but when you compare it to what we had, it's a major improvement, right? So
Drew Smiley, when Drew Smiley had a good inning, I was like, holy shit. I was surprised. even though he would string 7, 8 good outings in a row, right? But every time I'm like, how are they not hitting this guy? And the proof is in the pudding. You should look at the number. But like when he got in a slump, because you became predictable. When you're predictable and your stuff is that, woof, you're in trouble.
Well, and something else about the bullpen too is Colin Rea is not a bona fide starter. I think Colin Rea is in that same class as Javier Assad, where they do just as well in the bullpen as they do starting. And I think that versatility, having two guys that can hop in and take turns, spot starting that 5th, 6th spot, if they do decide to go with the 6-man rotation next year, is huge. And I again, people looked at the Colin Rea, oh, that's such a cheap low-ball jet offer. And is it like, no?
Ethan, before you go too far, I want to correct you on something. And I'm very happy correcting you on this. Okay. You said next year. It's this year, baby. We're coming. It's getting closer.
That's what I meant this year.
Next month.
As a Cubs fan, we're always talking about next year. It's just it's a habit. It's muscle memory.
Wait till next year. You mean March? Yes. Oh man. I'll tell you though, we gotta make sure that we follow their schedule, right? Because March 14th is go time. That's earliest opening day, and I don't know how long because they'll be in Japan for that series.
Yep.
That's an early opening day. I want to look it up. It's probably the earliest Cubs ever.
I'm excited to see Seiya and Shota in Japan.
Yeah, for sure, and I'm sure they are too. And I think it'll be just. I can't wait, guys. I can't wait to go time, man. Well, first base will be amazing.
All right, so we're coming up on the end of our time here, right?
Yeah.
We gotta wrap this up, right? Mm-hmm. So is Ryan Presley the closer, or is Porter Hodge? Just off the cuff.
Go ahead, Ethan.
So it's got to be Presley. They didn't bring him in and do that for nothing, but I do think that it's going to depend on the situation. I do think that Porter Hodge will get some of those lower leverage, like they have a 2 to 3 run lead. They'll send Porter Hodge in, or if they're kind of on a win streak and Presley's tired, he's pitched a few days in a row. I don't think it'll be solely Presley. I think it'll be like more 2/3 Presley, but I still think the big reason they brought Presley in my opinion, was to be that mentor for Porter Hodge, because Porter Hodge has clearly got the skill, just maybe not so much the experience. So yeah, I say Presley's going to be the bona fide closer.
I think Presley will be hard. I think he will be hard pressed to like pitch 3 days in a row, right? They're going to have that. I think every now and then they'll throw someone else in too. I think Craig Counsell, that just seems like a guy that I think he will stick with a guy until, as Hector Neris was proof of, until you really blow it, right? Even though he was always in trouble, he always got the job done. So Counsell kept going back to him. But I like what we have though. I think our bullpen's gonna be really. I think it's gonna be a strength. I think top 10, maybe lower or better in bullpen ERA, but just because I think we have some elements up there that are pretty solid.
With Presley coming here, Presley's press conference mentioning bringing Bregman here. How realistic is that? There was talk of Altuve moving to left field in Houston. So maybe Bregman's willing to play second, or maybe that was Paredes being willing to play second.
It was Paredes, yeah.
Third, right? But how? I mean, are we still interested in Bregman?
I'm approaching this the same way I approach everything until it's announced. I don't give a shit. I mean, listen. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, with him would be great. It'd be a great problem to have. But I think again, even I think it was Jed who said it on the stage that agents are floating out deals for their players, whether there's truth to the rumors or not. I think we're fine. But I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, if they get him, I'm not gonna be like, oh, they just ruined whatever they had in plan.
And Marco, you just said something that I just really quick. I know we're supposed to be wrapping it up, but really quick, I just want to touch on because you said no, it's okay. But you bring up a really good point with when you say if we bring up Bregman, well, what about Shaw? And you said that's a good problem to have. I want everybody to remember in 2016, Miguel Montero won Game 1 and won Game 7 for us as a third string catcher. Yeah. So the whole argument of, well, who are we going to play? Who are we going to start? That is an argument that World Series teams have every year. You need to have depth to get through 162 games and however many playoff games. So, yeah, if Bregman, you can get him, do it.
That's the point that I wanted to make was if Bregman's available for a 1 year with opt-outs or a fucking 4 year, sorry, language, 4 year with opt-outs, if he's available, that's a proven Gold Glove at third.
Yeah, and the thing about it is,
if we have a log jam at second base, that's a problem I'm willing to have, right?
I just don't think we're going to. I don't think we're going to make a play for him. But again, if it happens, hey, let's LFG, right? Let's go.
To be clear, I don't think we will either.
Right.
Given the current scenario. Yeah, but sure. I just wanted y'all's opinion on it because it's an interesting.
Well, listen, let's table that one.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes.
Because that's something.
Let's table that one and see what happens.
So the beauty of what's going on with us right now is that we have time, man. As much as the regular season is coming upon us quick, I think there is that whole element of there's still a lot to happen before we find out what the extra roster becomes on opening day, who's going to Iowa, and who's staying in Chicago. So. Finally, let's look at that. What we got? 2 weeks from now, we'll be back, and after that, I believe our goal is to say, you know what, let's just go right, week to week, because that's when the spring training will be in. Pitchers and catcher report. We'll be having regular content, probably regular games and all that. So
yeah, this will be our last every other week, right?
I think so. Yeah, because I think we're almost in season, and. So, Ethan, thanks a lot, brother. Anything else you want to say to the 3 people that are left watching us?
Thank you to those 3 people. And if you've made it this far, if Alex Bregman does sign with the Cubs, I will be getting a Cubs tattoo on my butt. I made that promise already, and I'm a man of my word. So, thanks for watching.
I'll tell you what. I'll join you.
I will not. I will not. My butt is too precious. All right, gentlemen. We will. With that, we will talk to you all later. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you guys for watching. And this has been the Ivy League, a Cubs podcast. So thanks so much for joining us.
We'll see you in February.